NBA totals for Monday, November 7th. We got 5 games on the board today. Yesterday we went 2-2. That puts us at 27-25 on the season on our totals. Sides were still down a little bit. Long season still ahead, and we're starting to come around, getting a lot more information as we, I get a chance to watch a lot of basketball, which is great, which is a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll start to get a feel for this more and start to break down statistics and things like that. Let's go ahead and let's start breaking these down. We got 5 games on the board today. The first one we got is Houston versus Washington, and I'm going to go over 216. That's at sports betting. When we look at these statistics, I've done this before, and I know some people don't really like it, but it's almost an opposite play. I got another one on the board that's going to be just like it, where the number just seems kind of off. So you have to dig into the statistics and see, why is it so high, and then make a good assessment. And I think we have that here. When you look at Houston's numbers, they're averaging 108 points per game, giving up 108 points per game. Okay, that's a lot of points they're giving up. Washington, they're averaging just 97 points per game, giving up 103.8 points per game. So just by that alone, this number 216 seems off. But then you start thinking about, even more information. Sorry, let me just talk about this. Their attempts aren't that high either. You got Houston averaging 83.3 and Washington averaging 83.6, and neither of them are allowing a lot of tempo either. So this number just seems a little bit off. And the reason why, there's 2 main reasons. There's 3 actually. The first one is Houston is number 2 in the league in shooting efficiency. They've been very, very efficient scoring the basketball. A second reason is Houston is averaging 35.3 3-point attempts per game. That ranks first in the NBA, and they rank second in making them, just under 13 per contest. They're going to shoot the 3. They're going to spread what's that mean? It means they're going to spread the floor. And I think as we see their tempo continue to get higher and higher each game, I think we're going to see higher scores consistently out of Houston with that Mike D'Antoni offense. This is an anomaly to me right now, having them at 83.3 attempts per game. I just don't think that's going to remain. I think they're going to end up being one of the higher tempo teams in the league. I could be wrong, but I think that's the case. On the other side, you got Scott Brooks. Same thing. When he was at OKC, man, tempo. So I think that's what we're going to see tonight with Houston and Washington. That's why the number's so high. I'm going to go ahead and go over the total. Pay attention to the odds, though. See where that line goes. Always check SBR to see where the numbers are moving. Next one up, we got Utah and Philadelphia. I'm going to go under the 192.5. I typed that wrong. Let's put that down here. The 192.5. Now, we got Utah. They're coming off a back-to-back, as I continue to type and talk at the same time. Utah's coming off that back-to-back versus New York. Now, against the Knicks, check this out. They scored 114 points, but they only got up 75 attempts. That would be the lowest in the league right now. And they do average the lowest attempts in the league at just 77 per contest. And they're allowing just 79 per contest, with Philadelphia getting up 83 per contest. But if Philadelphia allows a little bit more tempo. Still, Utah shot lights out. It kind of reminds me of that game versus San Antonio where they shot lights out, and then their next game, I believe it was versus Dallas, where it was an under the total. I think we find that same scenario here, although Dallas they're pretty bad, actually. At least, they won yesterday, but it was overtime. So we're just going to have to see how, they develop during the season. No Dirk right now, so can't really get on them too much. Utah's averaging 94 points per game. Philadelphia is averaging 92.8 points per game. I'm going under. Last year, these two went 170 and 186. I don't see them getting over 190, so I'm going to go under the 192.5. Next one up, we got Orlando and Chicago. I'm going to go under the 203 at BetOnline, and this one almost makes me nervous, but once I start to looking at the statistics a little bit more, I think odds makers have this right. You think with Chicago, the way they go with tempo, that you want to set, something a little bit higher, and Orlando's had no problem getting up and down. Problem is Orlando can't shoot. They're one of the worst shooting teams in the league. Actually, they are last in the league in shooting efficiency, and they're second to last in overall shooting percentage at 41.4%. Orlando attempting 87 shots per game. Chicago's getting up 85 shots per game, with them both allowing 87 attempts per game. What I find amazing with this also, here's the guts of this for this. I didn't want to say amazing. The guts of this play for me, you got Orlando averaging 95 points, Chicago averaging 106 points. The line's at 203. It feels like it should be a lot faster, but Chicago's given up 117 points, which they did to the Knicks. And then right after that, they gave up, 111 points. So they played 2 pretty bad ball games in a row defensively. and they're going to have to play better than that if they expect to compete in the East. And I think with their veteran core, they're going to come out and put the clamps down on Orlando. I think the Magic are going to have a lot of trouble scoring tonight. I think Chicago is going to be a little bit more defensive minded. That's how I see it, at least. That's why the odds makers have made. That's not the only reason. I'm sure there's a lot other statistics there. I'm probably not even seeing, but that number 203, to me, that shouts under. That it really does. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take under the 203. Now, mind you, don't forget, they could shoot lights out and go for 210 or 220. But in my opinion, I think it's going to be under. Okay, so I always want to bring in that caveat. For some reason, I make these picks and guys think I'm saying lock, or I'm never saying log. This is my assessment. So fade it, play it. It's up to you. But always check SBR because they have, those where all the odds are at, and you got to check the numbers. Next up, we got Detroit and Los Angeles. I have a sides play on this, and I'm going to go over the 197.5 at Heritage Sports. This is my other opposite play, if you will, much like that 216 with Houston and Washington. Two of the best defensive teams in the league are going at it. They're both Detroit's allowing 93 points per game. LA's allowing 90 points per game. They're the number 1 and 2 defense in the league, yet the over's at 197.5. And the reason for that is because, the attempts are going to be pretty high. Detroit goes for 87.8 attempts per game, which ranks them just around the top 10. And LA, they go 86.2 attempts per game. That's some pretty good tempo. And I think we're going to see that tonight from Stan Van Gundy and Doc Rivers. So I'm going to go over the total of Detroit and Los Angeles. That's the Clippers. And the last one we got is New Orleans versus Golden State. I'm going to go under the 224.5 because that number is huge. I understand these guys are going to run pace. But much like Chicago, how I think they're going to come out and play good defense against Orlando, I think Golden State's going to come out and play good defense against New Orleans, considering the fact that they just got blown up by Los Angeles. So I think they're going to come in, and you got, for a total like this, 224, you need two teams to go. And I think they're going to really shut down New Orleans. So look for them to play a game like they did against OKC, where they score at will, can pretty much name the final score. I don't know, New Orleans kind of plays them tough. They did the first time they met up this year, and Golden State has struggled. So I could be wrong on that. But at the end, we got two teams. We know they're going to go up tempo, but that's just too big of a number for me. The Lakers got up 95 attempts against Golden State, and Golden State is allowing a ton of tempo right now, 92.7 attempts per game from their opponents, and that's not them. They were much lower than the last season. I'm sure Steve Kerr is talking to the team about being better defensively, and better in their rotations and getting out and contesting shots and things like that. So I expect for them to put the clamps down on New Orleans, and I think that's going to help us keep under this big 224.5. And again, they could go crazy and score 240, but I think it's going to go under. Okay, quick recap. We got Houston, Washington over the 216. That's at sports betting. Utah, Philadelphia under 192.5 at Pinnacle Sports. Orlando, Chicago under 203 at BetOnline. Detroit, Los Angeles over the 197.5 at Heritage Sports. And New Orleans, Golden State under the 224.5. That's at SBR across the board. Check SBR for the odds. I know it's the third time I've said it, but it's a great place to work, and they got all the sports books there, so it's awesome. And I wish you luck on all your plays today.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.